Hello, so today I'm going to talk about my witch broom, mein Hexenbesen. So this broom isn't something I bought, and it's not just made from wood and twigs. It comes from an old place, a summer storm, and a tree that's been tied to folklore, protection, and mystery for centuries. This is my broom. The brush is made from birch twigs and the handle is bird cherry wood. But what makes it special isn't just what it's made from, it's how it came together. The birch brush actually came from my old Bauernhof that was built in 1818, but my Hof actually is much older. It is in the center of our little Bauernhofdorf, and so to say, 1818 is the last time it was renewed, so to say. But there was always a house standing where my house stands, back to the year 1000. Our village goes back. And before that were Slavic tribes here, and before that were the Germanic tribes here. So to say, my little village here has an extreme long history that goes back to prehistory. So anyway, this birch part that I found was already made, worn out, but still solid, just missing its handle. The handle had the woodworm. It was all rotted and broken off, almost like powder. And the handle that I have on it now came later. I didn't cut it myself. It broke off naturally during a summer storm when I first moved to my little farmstead here in Saxon. And as I said, the birch broom that I found it in one of the buildings. It's like a stable house, so to say, what it was, and I found it in there. So it was probably built sometime in the early 1900s, maybe the 1800s. And anyway, when this branch broke off in the summer storm, I didn't reshape the breaking part. All I did was I cut off the little tiny branches that were attached to it, and I sawed it flush off at the end, which would go into the birch twigs for my broom. But the actual break side I left exactly as it was, how nature broke it on its own. So this broom is really two things brought together: something old that was left behind, and something the land gave up on its own. And that matters more than it might seem, especially when you look at the history behind tools like this. Birch has long become connected to cleansing and renewal. So that's one of the main reasons brooms were traditionally made from birch in the first place. It wasn't just practical, it was symbolic. When people swept their homes, they weren't only removing dirt, they believed they were clearing out negative energy from the past week. Unwanted influences, anything that didn't belong. So that's why Saturday is the day, the god Saturn, of work, but also Laugardag or Lagutsdagat, the Laguts rune and the word day together. So it means cleansing day, washing day. And it was tied to preparation to resetting the home before the new week began on Sunday, the following Sunday. Well, Sunday is the first day of the week, and Saturday is the last day of the week. So the Hausfrau would take a birch broom and clean the space, not just physically doing the work, like the god Saturn is about work and physically doing work, but also with intention, like the rune Lauguts, of cleansing. So sweeping the floors, the corners, the thresholds, clearing everything out for the new week to begin. Saturday is also, as I said, connected to Saturn, the old god time to time cycles, working, so to say, reward for hard work, and also tied to endings. So the act of cleaning on that day wasn't random. It marked the end of one cycle, making space for the next. And then comes Sunday, the beginning again. A new week, a kind of symbolic rebirth. And that connects back to the Birch as well, the Birkana rune, the Birch rune, because Birch has always been represented new beginnings. It was the first tree to grow in Northern Europe after the Ice Age, after the ice retreat. It's one of the first trees to grow back after disturbance, which is why it became a symbol of renewal. The handle is bird cherry, Vogelkirsche. And Vogelkirsche, tree with much more complicated reputation. In folklore, it was often tied to wild places, the edges of forest, rivers, and boundaries. Some people believed it offered protection. Others thought it carried a darker energy. It wasn't seen as purely good or purely bad. It depended on how you approached it. And this piece came from a storm. In older traditions, wood that falls naturally, especially during storms, was sometimes seen as already chosen or released. So instead of cutting something down and shaping it, I worked with what was already given to me. So people look at something like this and call it a witch's broom. But historically, what we think of as witches, hexen, weren't what stories later made them out to be. In most cases, they were healers, herbalists, simply women who continued practicing paganism or heathenism, the old ways, that obviously they weren't allowed in the cities, so they would live in the woods, in cabins and stuff, away from the societies in the cities that were now Christianized. People who understood plants, land, and natural cycles, as the people in the what became cities and kingdoms slowly forgot it when the new religion came. The word changed over time, but the role was often grounded in knowledge, not superstition. The broom, sometimes called Besum, was one of the simplest tools. In modern German, we say Besen, but in, I think it was Old English, they said a Besum. But it carried meaning. Sweeping a doorway, clearing a room, it became a way of marking a shift from one state to another. For me, using this isn't about claiming anything supernatural, it's about intention. Clearing a space, resetting the atmosphere of the week, taking something simple and giving it meaning. This broom isn't perfect. It wasn't carved or polished into shape. It's just what was already there, brought together, and in a way that feels closer to the older traditions than anything else. Sometimes the most meaningful tools aren't the ones you make from scratch. They are the ones you recognize when they're already waiting for you. Tschüss.